How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Supporters Club. It's been a little while, but we are back. There's a lot to discuss and I'm with a few familiar faces. To my right, we've got Jordan back again. How's it going, Jordan?
All good, bro?
Yeah, good?
Man. I'm always good, baby.
I see you humming, I like it.
Yeah, it's in my head.
He's in a good mood. He's in a
I'm
good
in a good mood. The boys delivered.
We kind of are all in a good mood at this moment in time.
Yeah,
so long may it continue. To my left, Sheroy.
Yes.
All good, bro?
Can't complain. Occupying fourth, little points buffer. Let's go.
Yeah?
Let's go.
And the legend himself, Chris Hudson.
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, feeling good?
Yeah, I am.
Feeling in the good mood around you right now?
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's lovely. Long may it continue. That's the words I want to stand by.
It's a bit of an alien feeling though, isn't it? I haven't felt like this for a while, if I'm being honest, in terms of football.
And that's where you got to be careful.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. And that's what this supporters club is about. The title of it is it time to believe again? Is it time to believe again as an Arsenal fan? And you know, some people might hear that question and think you should have been believing already. Stop being so pessimistic, stop being so negative. But you know, the decline of Arsenal Football Club goes back a lot longer than just this season, a lot longer than the last 3 seasons. It goes back a hell of a long time. And I want to start off with you, Chris, because anytime we talk, anytime you're on Supporters Club or any other shows, I tend to mention that interview of yours, however many years ago it was now. Was it touching
2013?
2013, wow. 9 years ago now. And I think, stop me if I'm wrong, but that's when the belief was kind of sucked out of you back then, Chris.
It was gone, man. It was gone.
Yeah.
But I think that's why Arsenal fans don't get carried away, because psychologically we're all a bit damaged. Because it's there. It's always just when you when you think, you say to yourself, we've done it. And then something comes along and bang.
Yeah.
And that was that. You know, that week we lost to Palace, Brighton, and Southampton. I felt someone kicked me in the stomach. Yeah. And then we turn it around, and then we're back. So I do believe, but I'm not getting carried away. I'm taking each game as it comes.
I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, you was at the Southampton game away, right? The 1-0 loss.
I was in despair. I mean, I had Eddie off to Wycombe Wanderers. This is his performance.
Well, most of us had him off somewhere, yeah.
But and then look, I owe him I'll tell you something, I owe that boy a massive apology. He shut me right up. His performances in the last 3 games have been fantastic.
Yeah.
I was just, if one of those shots had gone in against West Ham, I think that was just topped it off for him.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed with him, but I've been impressed with the whole team lately.
Yeah, I mean, after them Tierney and Partey injuries and then the 3 losses, a lot of us thought that was it. All that good work to put us in a position for top 4, down the drain with 3 losses. Sheroy, is it time to believe again? Or is Chris right to say, you know, believe, but with some of the handbrake on?
It depends on what you're being asked to believe in. If someone's asking me to believe that top 4 is nailed on, I agree with Chris in that it's that fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, fool me 3 times, right? And we have been let down so many times.
This
in
might
the
be the 11th, 12th time.
Exactly.
I don't know what that makes us after that many, but yeah.
I know. And a lot of people actually, I think, stopped believing after we dropped points at Burnley, or when Burnley drew at the Emirates.
Hand up, yep.
And I was pretty pessimistic then as well. But if I'm being asked to believe in, is the structure and the culture at the club changing? That, to be honest, I do firmly believe now. Because if I'm looking at things from when Arteta came in, tell me if I'm rambling, by the way, but I think that honestly he would have come in and said, I need to get some sort of reconnection with the fan base.
And he actually said that.
Fine, yeah, I'd like to get some reconnection with the fan base because that's super important. Silverware's massively important. There are some big egos at this club that I think are detrimental to the club, and I want to set an example whereby it doesn't matter how big you are, how important you are. If you aren't doing things my way, you need to move, and that sets an example for the rest. I need to show that we can come back from behind in games. I need to show that we don't crumble under pressure. I need to show that in the league, we take things to the wire, when previously we haven't necessarily been in contention going into May. I need to show that we can attract a certain mould of player, a certain calibre of player, and have cohesion. All of those things, they're all things that I've been crying out for the best part of a decade, if not longer. And he seems to be doing that. And
they were all the things that we got wrong previously that led us down that path.
And he seems to have identified them, seems to have gone in with a plan. And yes, it's taken time. And the reality is that man's learning on the job as well. I don't think any of us can disagree with that. But if you're asking me, do I believe that he is taking all of those steps in the right direction, and can it culminate in something that we want to see? I firmly believe that, yeah.
Yeah, because, and you mentioned the 2 sides of the coin, let's say. I'm not necessarily talking about top 4 because part of this debate, I was going to bring it in later on in the show, but I'll bring it in now. There's 4 games to go, and it's still very much up in the air what's going to happen over those 4 games. There's a North London derby to come next week and so on. But there's already been a debate, especially after those 3 losses to Palace, Brighton and Southampton, whether top 4 defines the progress. I think that's what you're alluding to there. Whether it's 4th or 5th, you still see things off the pitch that...
Let's remember, we have qualified for Europe.
Yeah, well, bare minimum.
Yeah, and in August, that was his set perimeter, wasn't it? You have to get us into Europe, and he's done that. So that is progress.
Yeah, well...
Obviously, we all want Champions League. It's obvious, isn't it? That's the cherry on the cake. And I'll pray to God we get it. But we have achieved something this season.
And that's the bare minimum of Europa League football, I believe, which is top 6. So looking at a broader perspective, Jordan, take it away from maybe the top 4 debate, the 4th and 5th positions and the difference between those. Do you see progress? Do you see something to believe in again?
I do see something beyond this season to believe in. I've backed Arteta in the main throughout his tenure.
You have, yeah.
I must admit, after the Southampton game, I was a bit like, I wasn't in the sack him, get him out. But the implosion worried me. It was a bit like, whoa, at the time when you need to be seeing the job through, you're imploding. That's concerning. But he's turned it around again. I think one of the key things from the last 3 games that I'll note is we haven't played well. I don't think we were good against Chelsea. Our passing was horrible. They were just worse. I don't think we were good against West Ham for an hour either. They were just distracted clearly by what's happening in Europe with them. I think they had half an eye on Thursday's game. So they wasn't really going for it either. The United game, I thought we were good in parts, but irrespective of those performances, we won them all. And I predicted an Arsenal defeat in the United game, didn't I? Because I wasn't convinced that this Arsenal team were mature enough to be able to have a big win against Chelsea and then back it up with another big win. I think you need maturity to be able to park the Chelsea win and go again. And I wasn't quite sure this team had it in them. I thought they'd go into that United game still bouncing off the Chelsea win, where really the best teams, it's done, move on, win this game. And they did that. That gives me belief that this is a team that's maturing into one that can get big results back to back to back. West Ham, despite not being great and being distracted, are still a good team. And to go there and win, that's a good, those 3 games do give me belief. On your point, Chris, about Champions League football, I slightly disagree personally in the sense that we all want it. We all want it, but I felt for a few years now, I remember being on your show next door a couple of years ago where I said, there's no point being in the Champions League unless you're going to compete. My concern is, are we, even with summer signings that are going to come in no doubt this summer, are we good enough to compete? And it feels to me like we are a Europa League team. I think this team, with a couple of additions, wins the Europa League. Yeah. This team, with a couple of additions in the Champions League, gets out the group, but I'm still not convinced they have the quality, the manager experience, and the team experience to get to the latter parts. And I'm still scarred by Bayern, I'm sorry, but the 10-2 still, that's still in my head.
Even under Pig Wenger, was we ever going to win?
Well, exactly. So we're all saying we want Champions League football, and yes, we do. But I often wonder if the Arsenal fan base, Spurs fan base, even United fan base say that now as almost a bragging rights to everybody else. You're on Thursday nights. You're not even in Europe. We are. But really, what are you doing in the Champions League? And I don't want to be that club that are in there. We got 4th, yay. But we all know now deep down, we ain't going nowhere deep in that competition.
Like Chris said, I mean, we was in it how many years on end? And
20 plus.
Yeah,
we got to one final.
And this ownership really showed its true colours over that period where top 4 seemed to be it. Mm-hmm. That was enough financial income for them to be happy. They didn't really build on that. Now, for me, I agree with both of you. I mean, I don't believe we are ready for Champions League football next season. And if you ask me, are Tottenham and United ready? That's another debate in itself. I don't believe there's a 4th team in the Premier League that's really ready for Champions League football.
Good point.
So someone's going to fall into it and we'll see. My thing this season and last season and next season will be make Champions League so these owners can finally either prove themselves to be changing their ways or show their true colours again. Because without Champions League football, without the income, without the draw of the being in the tournament.
They have an excuse.
There's an excuse every single summer.
And that for me is where the belief question you can sort of compartmentalize. Because if you ask all of the things that I rattled off at the beginning of this segment, they were all things that are squarely within the manager's ambit.
Yeah.
In terms of dressing room culture, the way in which that culture is sort of projected on the pitch. But if you're asking me if I believe in the board, one window of what I believe is fantastic recruitment, and then a January window that, I mean, to be honest, I think even if we do get fourth, I think was borderline negligent. I don't yet believe in the board. And that's the thing. I've got belief in this crop of players. I've got belief in this manager. And a lot of people say that I'm jumping the gun with Arteta, but look, it's very subjective. It's a matter of opinion. It's not going to be a matter of fact.
No one can say for sure that way or that way.
Exactly. But the way that I'm leaning, I like the guy. I like his philosophy. I like what he's doing. I believe in him. And I'm more than happy to say that publicly. But do I have that same confidence in the board? God, no. And they need to, and that's the point. That's why I'm really curious to see what happens if we do get fourth. Because if we get fourth, and we've now, by all accounts, exceeded expectation, even the board probably weren't gunning for fourth this year. I think if you asked us at the beginning of the season, what is the absolute best Arsenal Football Club could do in the league, no one would have said Champions League. Even then, people may have said fifth.
Yeah.
The absolute best would have been fifth. So if we get there, that's when the board ought to say, right, okay, look, we've maybe got away with one here. We might need to bring things forward a bit. But the problem is, if I'm using January as an example, fourth was on then, and they sat on their hands. And that's the problem I have.
Well, to add to your point as well, Sheroy, the fourth is on now.
Yes.
So if this board are competent, they really should be looking at Champions League level players now. They should be doing their work and their job now. A list of 4 or 5 players. If we get Champions League football, we should be chatting to these guys now.
So Arteta was
Forget
asked about,
signings, but we should be talking to these guys now.
Arteta was asked about that in terms of recruitment. I can't remember which pre-match presser it was. But
Recent.
Yeah. I think it was maybe a fortnight ago. And they said, look, you will want to strengthen. To what extent does top 4 impact that? And do you have a plan if you don't get top 4? And Arteta swearly says, yes. I mean, it isn't that easy, but we have targets for both scenarios. Right? So it seems as though Arteta, Edu, and whoever else is involved in transfers are thinking like that. And hopefully they do have their house in order. But again, words are empty because you're only as good as your last game, and the board's last game was January. And I didn't see anything there that inspires me with confidence that they're going to change things going forward.
The reason why the belief question is pertinent as well, and the word belief is important, is because if we're going to believe in this board, look at the landscape. Ten Hag is coming in at United. They're going to want and need players, and there's going to be a massive revolving door of players coming in and out there. If Conte stays at Spurs, you better know, he's telling Daniel Levy, if I'm staying here next season, I want him, and him, or I'm going PSG. So they're going to be active in the market. We need to, City and Liverpool are signing players already. So we can't be on the back foot. We can't wait for the Everton game to finish and then start approaching players.
Well,
we need to be approaching players now.
He told, when he was there, done the interview with this Brazilian, he said they've already done their own work. But perhaps,
I hope so.
For once, they have done their planning.
So.
Well, I hope so too. But you raised a very good point, and that's why I'm here with this topic about belief, because Arteta, like you said, in isolation, you look at what he can do with what he's got, and for the majority, he's managed to change around, the culture of the squad, the connection between the fans and the team and the club, and a few other things along the way, especially this season. If we make Champions League football, that would be massive. But I mentioned this on Forever Arsenal, and I'm sure I've mentioned it before to you, Sheroy. The first week of January, Arteta said, in order to, really challenge, you look at Man City, Liverpool, for example, they do it every year, they do it every window. You need to maximise every window. And then we went on in January to essentially weaken the squad. Like you said, if we make Champions League, it would have been despite our January transfer window rather than because of it.
That's harsh, but you know what I think about that anyway.
Yeah. Well, you can give your point after this. But that's for me, that's where the belief is a bit held back, because we make Champions League football. Arteta, for me, has done a wonderful job, because at the start of this season, I didn't think we'll finish in top 6. And I said, for us to finish top 4, it's not going to be in our hands in terms of what we do in the summer. It'll be due to the failures of United, Tottenham, or whoever's due to be there. But we've taken that opportunity this season, and we are leading the pack with 4 games to go. It's just that January and what the club did, not what Arteta did, because I can't define who did it, but what the club did leads me to believe that maybe that summer transfer window off the back of the Super League nonsense last year might have been another blindfold thrown in amongst the rest of them over the years. That's where I'm a bit nervy about it. But you have a different opinion of January.
I do. I just think this. I hear from Arsenal fans that say the January window we didn't strengthen, and that will be where if we don't get top 4, it'll be because of that. We didn't replace Aubameyang. We didn't bring in a couple of midfielders. I hear that argument. I do hear it, but I don't. You can't have it both ways. You can't say if we finish 5th, it's because you guys didn't strengthen the team, and that's the reason why. But then if he gets 4th, he's still getting heat for not. Because personally, I see it as he took a gamble. It was a gamble to let Aubameyang go and not replace him with a striker. Whether you went for the player you wanted and get them or not, we don't know.
But you keep saying he. Do you think that he is Arteta then?
I think, I'm guessing, I think the board said to him, if you want money to spend, there's money to spend. I think he decided if I can't get the guy that I want, I'm not going to get the person.
And you wanted a Juventus player, didn't you?
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about that because he didn't get him, so maybe have a plan B, plan C. But my point is, you can't give him criticism if he doesn't get top 4 because of lack of signings in January. But if he does get it, not accept that the gamble that he took has paid off. And what I mean by paid off is he's got some players off the wage books. He's got a player at the club that he felt was detrimental to the culture he spoke about, Aubameyang, and still got top 4 without panic. He didn't panic buy. He backed his team and thought, we're not in Europe. We're at the 2 cups now. I think I've got a big enough squad to see the league campaign out. And if we do get 4th, that deserves credit. The gamble was paid off. If he doesn't, then give him heat, and he deserves all the heat that he gets.
But look at what he's getting out of the squad players. Look at El Neni. I mean, he's performing at the peak of his ability. Well, I mean, that pass he hit.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What a ball. I didn't think he had that in him.
No. Yeah.
Back Eddie, I didn't think he had that in him. Rob Holding's come in.
Cedric earlier.
Cedric hasn't, I don't care what people say. He has not let the Arsenal down this season. I know he has his moments, but he's a good squad player. And they're all in it together. They're all obviously believing the man. You've got to give him a massive pat on the back, Arteta. If he gets us 4th, he's had Tierney, Partey, he's lost him. You've got Smith Rowe, I think, is carrying an injury. Remember, he's had the COVID.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful achievement.
Maybe I'm harsh when I said despite January window. That's when maybe that's harsh because the way I see it is if we get top 4, the lack of business or the business in terms of outgoings we done in January, I guess adds to the belief that we might turn a corner because the wage bill is down for the first time in how many times did this club come out and say we can't sign players because of the wage bill? Finally, we could potentially make Champions League football with a wage bill as thin as any big squad out there, and it will put us in a better position.
What it does is it really limits the excuses the board will have in the summer if we do make top 4.
That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, they have no room for manoeuvre at that point. But touching in on the whole Arteta and board and signings thing, right? Arteta to me anyway. Obviously, feel free to disagree. He strikes me as a man with a massive ego, and he strikes me with a man with a relative chip on his shoulder about his inexperience. He strikes me as a man that wants to stamp his authority on this league very quickly by making big decisions that people of Conte, Pep and Klopp's calibre would do, almost as if to say, I'm here and I'm not letting my inexperience take away from the decisions I can make. A man with that ego, for me, he'd want the best tools at his disposal to secure the outcome that he wants, which is why I find it very difficult to believe that he would not have done everything he could to bring someone in January to bolster his chances of getting top 4. That's why I actually think
it was more the
he may have had a list of targets and said, look, I'm willing and I want to let Aubameyang go. And I understand we need to limit our wage bill and get a lot of these players out on loan. But as a bare minimum, bring me this striker or one of these, please. And at that point, over to you, because I have games to manage now. I've got players off at AFCON. I'm going to go back to my job. Can you handle this, please? And I personally think they let him down. That's my stance on it. Because of his ego and the fact that he knows top 4 is on and he knows he could then cement the fan base's belief in him. I don't think he'd ever want to damage the chances of getting top 4 as a result. And that's my personal
But the ego
view.
works both ways because his ego could have said, I think I'm that good.
Could become arrogant.
I can get top 4
Could
with
become arrogant.
Lacazette and Saka.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the ego thing, I think you're totally right in how you describe him, but it could work the other way whereby his ego says to him, actually, no, I don't want them guys. I'm not playing them. I'll back these guys. I'm good enough to get Lacazette 8 goals between January and May.
So I'm only going off the interviews that he's given. And a lot of people have asked him, look, I mean, what are you doing up front now? You know, because you don't have Aubameyang, Laka and Eddie aren't getting goals. And he looks exasperated and he says, I know, but it's what we have. I know, but it's what we've got.
As if to say, I tried to get some guys in, but the board didn't get the guys I wanted.
He's not going to do a Conte and say, yeah, but I told people.
By the way,
this is as far as he can go, being a novice, and without absolutely dragging the board through the mud.
Sure. By the way, Arteta be wanting rewarding. By the way,
Yeah, well,
I think he's going to sit there on. How long has he got on his contract? 2 years.
A year in the summer.
Is it 1 year left?
Isn't it?
Oh wow!
They'll offer him something.
And he'll be wanting
regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, don't quote me on that. I believe it's a year left in the summer.
I think so.
He'll be wanting rewarded for it, and so he should be.
But yeah, I mean, look at where we are. Let's just get these 4 games over the line. Another thing, just from last weekend, when the Super League announcement happened and the backlash from that, the protests, and you know, what Josh has done since is tried to connect, you know, with the fans forum, a rewards point system, and you know, whatever else they've tried to put into to bring back a connection. One of the things for me when I look at Daniel Ek coming in was Henry, Bergkamp and Vieira. I didn't know Daniel Ek, I don't trust Daniel Ek, and I didn't know anything about his history. I trusted Bergkamp, I trusted Henry, I trusted Vieira. Since then, Vieira's gone over to Palace, so his link to that whole bid or Daniel Ek has ceased. Henry and Bergkamp just last weekend.
I thought that was interesting.
We're on the pitch, exactly, Chris. I want to start with you there because Henry, Bergkamp, we trust them, we believe in them because just last year they told us everything fans like us knew was going on behind the scenes at Arsenal. But now they find themselves in and around the club again on the Emirates pitch after the game. What do you make of it?
I found that. See what Arteta says about that. He said that it's nice that they can turn up at the club, and so they should. So that sort of thing said to me, perhaps they wasn't that welcome, but now they are. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that, mate.
Yeah, because listen, I trusted Wenger too, and I think that's why it ended in such a sour note because all of that trust went down the drain by the end of it.
He hasn't been back though, has he?
He hasn't, no.
No, I think that's sad.
And very sad. But in terms of people we can trust in and around the club, because of the disconnection, forget the fans for a second, there was a disconnection from the club to the legendary players over the years as well. It's nice to see 2 of the biggest legends we've had at this club come back and be, it wasn't much, but it was something that's leading me to believe that if just last year Henry and Bergkamp, not so much Bergkamp, Henry more vocally, were telling us and showing us that Arsenal's in decline is because of the ownership, we need to do this and this needs to change. A year later, coming in and being part of the club.
Very interesting.
Surely, Sheroy,
are they starting to believe?
That's my question.
That's the thing. Are they starting to believe?
Because I love Thierry Henry. I love Dennis Bergkamp. You know.
Yeah.
I love Wenger too, but obviously that love turned a bit sour at the end. Hopefully, the same can't be said about Henry and Bergkamp. But there's something about the way they retaliated to the Super League last year and coming in this year that makes me think. What's changed in this past year?
There's a number of things, isn't there? Because when the Daniel Ek stuff broke, that name was hot on everyone's tongue for a long time. I haven't heard Daniel Ek spoken about until today in a long time. That's kind of
well, he done something with Barca in January, so Spotify and Barcelona got some sort of a deal.
Fine. And then Henry and Bergkamp, I think they chose the United game to come to the Emirates, didn't they? That's when they were there. They know what that fixture means, right? They know that if they're turning up on that match day, it sends a particular kind of message because it's almost as if to say, you remember what those fixtures were like when we were here? We want to bring that back, and we may well have chosen this day because we think that spirit is coming back. The reason I don't want to read into it too much is only yesterday Henry then came out and said, I'm sort of disgusted with the way that Saliba's been treated by Arsenal.
Yeah.
So it is mixed messaging to an extent, and I don't know whether we're reading too much into the fact that they turned up or whether we're not reading enough into it. But
true.
I personally never thought that Henry, Bergkamp and Vieira had any particular problem with Arteta's appointment or what he was trying to do. I think all of that was squarely aimed at the board again. And that's why for me the two are clearly divisible, and they always have been.
100%.
It's interesting, I hadn't thought about why Bergkamp and Henry were in town, but I kind of lean more towards Sheroy in the fact that I'm not sure there's anything to do with the bidding and anything to do with the board. I'm just thinking as you're talking then, why could they have been there? And you mentioned that particular fixture. It might just be because Amazon asked them to come.
Great point.
It might be because there's a documentary to be filmed there. We're getting to the point now where, from a documentary point of view, this is where it gets interesting. And it's probably our last flagship game of the year, Man United at home. let's fly in Bergkamp and Henry, just wave to the fans a little bit, you know, brought around, meet Saka, it's a good photo op, but it's good content for Amazon. Do you know what I mean? And the documentary. So I can't think of any other reason why they both were in town. I hadn't thought about the link between the board and anything like that. I don't know.
No, that's a good point, because that was the flip side of it. You know, were they just there because it's a big game and the club saw it as maybe a little PR move, get them on the pitch, have someone like Turkish thinking to himself they're on board, and you know, it goes a long way.
But to have two, if they got just Henry or Bergkamp, that might fly. But to have two, you're like, why have you got them both here? That's a coincidence.
And I believe there's some more legends coming out this weekend against Leeds.
Team.
The double winning
get invited back. Yeah, 70-71 double team.
I think it's a documentary.
I think that is fantastic.
I think it's a documentary. I think it's content.
We'll see. We've forgotten about that documentary at times this season.
No, I forgot all about that.
I haven't.
No.
I haven't. Every time I see anything, I'm like, well, that's going to be on Prime next year.
But you know what's funny?
It's in the back of my head the whole season.
It's only the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, probably up until the Palace game, I started thinking, this is going to be a crap documentary. It's going to be rubbish. And then you lose 3, and then you think, oh, that's good content. Then you win 3, that's great content. And now we're in a position where we're back in front. So it's shaping up now to be, you know,
it could be a Spurs game would be fantastic.
Oh, that's going to be fire. That's going to be fire. But for most part of the season, I think to myself, nothing's happening.
Yeah,
this is a rubbish documentary. It's going to be rubbish.
Looking at the documentary through the lens of the title of this show, i.e. should we believe or not, I'm not naive enough to think that Arsenal don't have the sort of final seal and some sort of veto in terms of the content that goes out. But one reason I do really want to watch this is, no matter whether Arsenal have that veto or not, we will see a lot about Arteta's dynamic with the players, whether it's in training sessions or whether it's in the dressing room or whatever it is. And that, for me, I would love to see, because I'm very, very big on body language, human interaction, the way that the students respond to the professor. And I think that's crucial. So I'd love to see that in the documentary. That's one of the main reasons that I do want to watch it. And that could impact my belief either way. If I suddenly see an entirely responsive squad, all of whom clearly back the manager, and it seems as though they're responding, then that will also go to me believing in that guy. I just don't think we'll get much of an insight into the board in that, if I'm being honest. I think we'll see a lot more to do with the manager and the squad. I just don't think we'll see much of the board in that documentary.
You're right there, because when I look at this season, part of my belief has come from the fact that these young players, anytime they've been knocked back, whether it's at the start of the season, in November, December, those away games, in January, the domestic cup, they've bounced back. Even more recently, Brighton, Palace and Southampton, they keep bouncing back. You know, a lot of people have said I've been on the fence with Arteta, you know, and I've flip-flop from one to the other. It's because it's hard being an Arsenal fan, because, you know, how do you disregard all of the decline, which has got nothing to do with Mikel? How do you disregard all of that and clean the slate again when I've done it before? But this time round, one thing about Wenger is the players also believed in him, and that led to where it led to. That's why I always say, if you believe in Arteta, balance it with pressure above. If you don't believe in Arteta, balance it with pressure above, because either way, that's the people that make the choices.
The two things that I want to distinguish there, though, is the players who believed in Wenger obviously believed in him because of the man that he was. The guy's an absolute legend, but they also would have taken a liking to him because he very rarely threw players under the bus. Protected them, yeah. And he was to an extent soft on characters that he perhaps shouldn't have been. Arteta still protects his players, don't get me wrong, because even, you know, look at the Southampton game, look at the Palace game, look at the Brighton game, he came out and said, no, it wasn't because they didn't want it. Trust me, they're hurting. They're trying really hard. We're going to go again. But he isn't soft, because if you piss him off, you're gone.
Yeah, I think there's fear with Arteta.
Yeah. There's an element of we respect you, there's an element of we believe in you, but there's also an element of if Pierre can go like that, then that could happen to us. And that's the balance you need to strike. For a young manager and a young man to have struck that balance in his second full season, hats off to him.
There's very George Graham things going on with Arteta. I do see a lot of similarities with George. If you go back to that era when he come in, he had Woodcock, Caton, Nicholas Sansom, all out the door. He introduced Rocastle, he introduced all the young players. And it was that same vibe, that same hunger. See who else I'm seeing it is in the crowd.
You're feeling the same.
When I go back to when George took over, the seasons beyond that, there was 16,000 at Arsenal. Yeah. Losing to York City. The club was a mess. The clock end was falling down. The ground needed totally David Dean. I don't want to go over it. David Dean turned up, and there was that fantastic, what's the word, belief. And I'm seeing it again. It's
similarities,
weird. Yeah. And I'm seeing it definitely in the crowd. Away games this season have been a lot of carnival.
This is why I love being on the couch with him, because I'm too young to remember all of this stuff and seeing him recount it so vividly.
I'm getting the same vibe when I went to watch the Arsenal before that wonderful Michael Thomas at Anfield. I'm getting the same. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we're going to win the league at Anfield a minute ago.
We can do it, Chris. We can do it.
But I'm getting that same vibe.
Similarities.
I'll tell you something. If you've been privileged to go to an away game this season, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
We can hear it on TV, and if we can't go.
The support. I can't tell you how good. And I'm not having Arsenal, the Emirates called a library again. That's gone.
Yeah, it's been a different
Think
season.
of some of the atmosphere where you've had. Think of the Tottenham game when that ground was rocking, wasn't it? Man United. Yeah, the library's gone, mate.
Even Liverpool, when Liverpool came to us, that was hostile for them.
Yeah.
That was hostile for them.
Because the club asked for us to believe and trust the process, and the majority have. You see it week in, week out.
There's definitely Jules Graham vibes going on, I'm telling you.
I think the key word to this episode is belief. And I think going back to the point you made earlier on, Turkish, I'm interested to see those that believe what's happening now, are you going to believe if we end up finishing 5th?
Bang on.
Are you believing because we had 3 really good results and we're vibing and we're bouncing? If we just miss out by a couple of points and to Spurs and finish 5th, does the belief then actually no?
All right, so let's round this up with one question, starting to my right, and we'll go all the way around, yeah? You don't know whether we're finishing 4th or 5th this season, but come the end of the season, the week after, game week 38, for you can't look at 4th or 5th, but what defines your belief? One thing, whether it's the summer transfer window last year, whether it's how he's been with the big names, whether it's his confidence in his own ability, that sometimes might verge on arrogance and sometimes might be an ego thing. What is the one thing that leads you to believe?
The one thing that leads me to believe is the current manager's ability to manage upwards, downwards, and the fan base. I think he's playing all 3 of those groups just right. I think he's putting enough pressure on the board to let them know that I'm not here to play games. I need players. I need back my decisions, i.e. let Aubameyang go, whatever it may be. He's managing the players. You don't hear any at United. Every week there's some nonsense coming out, some leaks coming. We're not hearing any of that at Arsenal at the moment. So he's obviously got that team locked, right? We're in this together, no nonsense. And also the fan base. Some of the fan base aren't having him. And that's fine. They're allowed that opinion. And I see why a lot of them have doubts about him. I get it. But in the main, I think even those that don't necessarily rate him have to appreciate that he's improved the club. If he left tomorrow, we are better now than we were when he walked in the door. Cool. And I think the fan base, even your hardened Arteta outs, have to accept that.
Yeah, I get you. His management up, down, and
around.
And around. Yeah, there we go. Sheroy?
The only thing there that I'm still unsure of is the management up. I don't know how much pressure he is exerting.
That's where I was a bit dubious.
That's the only thing.
January for me.
Arsenal are losing a lot of money by cutting contracts of Ozil, Aubameyang, Socrates. I think Mustafi left. The Greek defender.
Mavropanos.
No. Socrates. Sorry, that's his name. We lost a lot of money on those. So for him to be able to say, I'm not playing any of those guys, let them go, that's a financial loss that the board would have signed off on the back of them believing in him.
Is it a financial loss if you take into account the wages they would have had to pay them if they stayed there? I think the board would have been up in terms of net.
If they'd have kept him?
I think so, all of them, because of the wages that they were on. And at that point, maybe, it could have still maybe come from the board. Well, you know what, fine.
That could have come top down then.
Exactly. I'm not saying that I don't believe there's pressure on the board. That's just a bit that I'm not entirely sure about. This for me.
Point about the finance. We mustn't forget Arsenal's still suffering from COVID on the finance. You know what I mean? They're still suffering from that.
We're suffering because going into it was our first loss in a financial year since moving into the Emirates.
And they're spending a lot of money on the ground this summer and all apparently as well as players. So, they do deserve a little pat.
They ain't told us about the players yet. They told us about the ground. So let's hope the players come with it. Go on, Sheroy. One thing that defines your belief.
I can't really come. I mean, the main thing for me is, of course, the belief that I see at every match day.
Does that come from the fans?
Well, definitely. But it takes a lot to make us believe, as you know, because we've been so desperately scarred. So the notion that there is such a massive percentage of the fan base that are now absolutely belting out, we've got Super Mick Arteta at every game, leads me to believe that there is something to get behind, and I fully get behind it. But I don't know if you guys will agree, but an interesting thing for me, particularly when you do box to box, is you will always pose the question, what do you think of Arteta, to opposition fans? And if you look at those directly around us and those below us and those above us, generally the consensus is, I think he's doing a stellar job with what he's been given. I like the fact that he's getting the big egos out. Look at the Arsenal fan base now. You didn't used to win against the big six. You went and you've beaten United this year, you've beaten Chelsea this year, you've beaten Tottenham this year, did the double over West Ham, comfortably duppied Leicester. You're winning games that you typically wouldn't win. You've got destructive characters out. There's all of those things that I think now, people won't say it as eagerly as Arsenal fans might, but I think there are a lot of other clubs that are like, they could do something soon. And that for me is a wonderful metric, because I know that I've spoken to United fans, I've even spoken to Chelsea fans recently saying, you might be onto something with Arteta, you know. And that for me, quietly, is quite comforting, knowing that even they're looking at us like, shit, might need to worry about them.
Well, we'll see if that comes to light. Chris, one thing to define your belief.
The players believe in him.
Yeah.
Bang on, yeah.
They run through brick walls for him.
That'd probably be mine as well.
Once you've got that, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Seriously. And historically, as I said, I'm getting the same sort of vibe.
Yeah.
But it's that the players believe in him, and let me tell you, he's doing miracles with some of these players. I can't get over what he's doing with them. It's fantastic.
Why do you think the players believe in him? Touch on that, because you go back to George Graham, and I'm not.
Because there's a thing called what I call discipline. With George, you didn't step out of line because it was good night. And I'm getting the same vibes with this man. And you know what I mean? And I think they believe in what Arteta tells them, what George told them. And everything that George said usually comes true. And I'm getting the same vibe with Arteta.
And we have seen players come out and say, I've not been given that level of tactically astute instruction throughout my career.
Odegaard said that.
And I think Xhaka as well. There have been a few that have come out and said that.
Yeah.
Tierney, I think, came out and said a similar sort of thing. And you're looking at someone in their first managerial job. We're not looking at Arteta's Arsenal manager. This is Arteta's managerial career that we're watching blossom.
And it's not just the first team. You know, I always harp on about the youngsters because I love to see them coming through.
Yeah.
They say as well. That young Flores done an interview.
Yeah.
And he says he brings young players into training during the week and he makes them believe that they will get a chance.
Yeah, look
I
at
think
that.
it's fantastic.
I've asked a question and Chris has gone with the players, you've gone with the waves of optimism in the fan base, and you've gone with his management up, down and around. Three different indicators or like the definition of your belief.
And none of which are hinged to top four.
No.
They're all independently great things to have in a managerial candidate. That's the point. That's the point. And that's what I've been trying to get across. I want top four, and I'll be upset if we don't. Don't get it twisted. But if you're just looking at do I believe in the manager and the players, everything is independent, everything is tangible, and it's notwithstanding the top four battle.
That's why I wanted to take that out of it, because the debate, a couple of weeks ago when it didn't look like we was getting top four was, if we don't get top four, he should be sacked, and top four is not the be all and end all. So I thought, let me take that out of it and see what others define as belief.
It's like a crusade for Arsenal to get top four.
Yeah.
And then when I watch Tottenham, it's like a chore.
I get you.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
The Arsenal fan base, it is like a crusade.
It feels like the wind behind ourselves, and we're just all moving in one direction for the first time in a long time.
Doesn't it feel like we're crashing a party? It literally, to me, every time I see us in that part of the table, I feel like we're crashing the party.
It could be the first party we crash on the way to crashing the biggest party in a couple of years' time, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But the first party to crash would have been, Man United, Tottenham, Chelsea potentially, and we've been in and around there all season.
I think it's important now that we just finish the job off now, because we're talking. Yeah. We've acknowledged our credit towards him is independent of whether he gets fourth or not, but we all want fourth. We all want it. I think if we don't get it, I'm still backing him if he finishes fifth, regardless. But I think we are the fourth best team in the country. I do think we are. There's a gap between the top two in Chelsea and then Chelsea and everybody else. But I think we deserve top four. I think he deserves top four. And if we don't get it from here on in, that will be a little bit disappointing. But yeah, I think he's got to finish the job off now, because he can go to another level. I think if we can have Champions League football to kind of approach players and give his own team the belief that you guys did this, so let's go again. I think that'll be a massive, massive kick forward.
If the board let him.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and in order to be ready for Champions League, I think we've got to start being in it.
That's right.
You know, I know we're not ready for it next season, but to really be ready
I'd
to
rather
kick
be in it
on
than
from
not.
the group
Yeah.
stages, you need to
Totally.
be in it a couple of years at least. People, hope you guys have enjoyed the supporters club. Obviously, the question was, is it time to believe again? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Or is the wool being pulled over our eyes yet again? Give us your thoughts. Hit the like button. Love for the lovers always. Big up Jordan, Sheroy, and Chris Hudson. As always, people, love for the love. We are out. Peace.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.